All right, it's 6:30. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. First on our agenda is introductions. I'm Tyler Nairmore. I'm the board president. If you guys want to introduce yourselves, we'll go around the table.
I'm
John Malady.
Jim Haven, Vice President.
Rich Parks, Secretary.
Stephen Spencer.
Sally Burbridge, City Administrator.
Amy Kohler, City Clerk.
And then we've got Brent Young and Steve Payne with the city with us down there. All right, first, I guess the second item would be approving our minutes from our previous meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes August 19th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Our next item looks like the airport update. Brent or Steve, would you like to let us know what you guys been up to out there? I know you've been doing quite a bit.
Good evening. So we got basically, I'm going to make it short. We got the new hangars up and running, the power run over there, and we're working on the lease agreement. That's why we're here tonight. I did end up purchasing a mini split for the pilot lounge out of the funds for the airport. So that'll be heated and keep your pipes from freezing and give your pilots a place to go this winter that'll be nice and toasty. So still working with the electric department on setting a pole, so hopefully we can get Rommel to put in a security system out there and get us some cameras looking at the fuel pumps and the gates. That's kind of where we're at. I did get a quote for having the lines repainted on the runway. Unfortunately, it came in at about $15,000, so I have to work with the request for bid process, I'm pretty sure, to get that going again. So they're going to be doing tar work on sealing up your cracks there for, we're looking at November. They got the machine and they were all over it, and the machine failed. So everybody in the queue got the machine next after it was fixed, so we had to get bumped out to November. So that'll put line painting off, I'm guessing, until spring, so unfortunately. But that's where we're at. Did you guys have any questions?
On the painting, is it outside of our realm of possibility to do the paint and then come in there behind it with the glass beads and do that ourselves, or did we decide against that?
I felt like, I personally, and I think Brent and I spoke about it, something as important as that, you know, making sure that that's good, that we would rather have the contractor do it to make sure it is on point. I mean, if that's something you gentlemen would rather try to save some money on, I just
didn't know if it was something we felt comfortable with, and if you're not comfortable with it, I'm not gonna push the issue at all.
I know about 25 years ago, I painted all the stripes and put glass beads in it. And you got to put the glass beads in as the paint goes down because it's got to stick in the paint.
Right.
But it can be done. I don't know if we want to do it or not, but it's not real difficult to do.
Roger that.
I assume the city has like a gas-powered spray painter?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. So that's something we can discuss and look at that option.
We could give you some volunteer work as well, I'm sure, if you did. Yeah, I'm sure it would save us significantly. If we can't find any lower bid, I believe it was around 15,000, is that correct? For
15,000 for the bid, yeah. And I'm not opposed to helping out and throwing beads down. Our paint sprayer, about how wide, does it paint a wide enough stripe to do something like that?
We'll have to do multiple stripes,
Multiple, okay.
and of course, throw the beads down each stripe, so.
Gotcha. So then we'd be out the money for the products and such. So, but we can put that together and discuss. I don't know if we can get her done in November, paint dry wise. So,
I don't know.
gotcha. We'll
there
look
are
at it.
specs as to how we do that. Like, luckily, we still have a little bit of remnants left to the existing stripes because the centerline stripes are 120 feet long and they're so wide, and all the other stripes. And then I believe there was a Type 1 and Type 3 reflective bead. Is that correct? And the only
Right.
one that needed the really bright beads where the hold line is short of the taxiway. So there's only one span of that at each end of the runway. So that's not going to require much of the really reflective ones. The rest of it will be just the normal beads.
Roger that. Well, Brent and I can work with you and we can figure it out. And
Sure.
if we can,
And
I
like
don't know what
said,
the
I would-
weather's going to do.
I
What's that?
would be welcome to help too.
Okay, appreciate it. Yeah, let's save that money then, and we'll try taking it on. Paint sprayer's a little long in the tooth, but I think we can make it work, so.
I cannot believe just in this last year how much that paint has faded. And when you're standing on the ground, you can see it somewhat. When you're coming in at an angle, you cannot see it at all.
Do you know how many years ago that coat was put down?
It was
or-
about 15, 20 years ago,
Oh,
I'd
wow.
say,
Okay.
when they resurfaced the runway. I want to say it was about 15 years ago. Well, they resurfaced, they closed the runway down for a couple months. But regardless, it's a little worse shape than I had actually thought it was in.
Gotcha.
So,
Important.
yeah,
We'll look at it
is
and see.
because when you're not all pilots are as seasoned, and when they come into a runway and they have given wind information, it can be pretty important that they're lined up with the correct runway. And when they should be able to line themselves up with the correct runway without seeing it written on the pavement, but that doesn't always happen. And landing with the
get it.
tailwind could be,
Challenging.
yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about what season here we can get that done and start making a plan.
Okay.
So,
Excellent.
any other questions, gents?
Let's see. I think you covered pretty much everything I had questions on. The pilot lounge, the mini split, I believe they were going to have to finish a sheetrock before the mini split went up.
Right.
And we had that little heater in the bathroom, but that's all it's got. We discussed it. That's,
When you pointed that out, I went ahead and, yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
But
jumped on it. So my guys, I've set them down and we went over their priority list. So that's up there, number 2 or 3. So they're going to
Great.
get it knocked out. So
Excellent. I believe that's all I have for you, Steve.
Roger that. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Brent. You guys been doing a great job. You got it bush hogged out there. You filled in the trench and came back once it settled and filled it in again. And yeah. We've were they out there spreading mulch today, or was that yesterday? What?
Some waste, yeah.
Okay, just fill. Okay. Yeah, so anytime we get that fill off the end of the runway is a great place to put that. So, yeah, that'll save us in the long run. Good deal. And we can save any other questions for the end of the meeting here. Let's go ahead and move into the hangar updates, the lease, and the policies. And I'll turn this over to you, Sally, I believe, for this. Or I had a copy of that, and I believe I left it in the car.
Oh, of the lease itself?
Yes, I had
My
some notes
apologies,
on
I
it.
didn't bring printed copies. I'm
That's
never sure
fine,
what you
yeah.
guys need me to bring, so, yeah.
Right.
You just have to cue me sometimes and let
Thought
me
I
know.
had one, but I don't.
Do you have your email?
I'm going to pull it up right now.
Okay, because I did not print that out. But I do have the most recent version that Attorney Weber had sent out to all of you. I did talk with him this afternoon. He said there were some typos and some minor things that you, Tyler, and he had spoken about that he was going to correct after kind of you guys had gone through and we knew what final edits needed to be made to it. So I was going through just before we started. I knew from memory, there's 2 or 3 places that I remember you had questions about, Tyler, but I didn't know if you wanted to.
Most of it was in section 6,
Right.
which is the kind of the bylaws we came up with
Right.
between you
Kind of
and
the
us.
policies, yeah. Yep.
And in, we sent it out in email, but I'm assuming, did you guys have a chance to review the changes I had proposed? And it's not that we're going to have to meet again, it's just something
Right.
that we need to kind of agree on,
Right.
that these are
Just
things.
hash it out, and then we could put it before the
Okay.
board, right, the Board of Aldermen. I do have, I don't know if you want me to start, or. you
Yeah,
want
go
me to-
ahead.
So in section 6, like you said, under obligations for the tenants, Item number 2. So this has to do with, I'll read it, and then we'll kind of go into, it reads, "Tenant shall provide to city at the time of effective date of this agreement and subsequent renewals, a copy of a current aircraft airworthy annual inspection, or for non-N-numbered aircraft, an aircraft annual condition report." And then in parentheses, it says, "Non-N-numbered aircraft includes but is not limited to ultralight or experimental type aircraft." So Tyler, I think you had kind of mentioned maybe we might want to delete that since non-N-numbered aircraft can't be used for basing at an airport.
Right.
So we don't want one of those new hangars taken up for a non-N-numbered. But I think you'd also mentioned that you would be okay with if someone had an N-numbered and a based aircraft stored, that they could maybe store one of these with it.
Right.
I don't know that we have an issue with that, and so I'm not sure if we want to just delete some of this language.
And
Or,
just primary example, like Steve's hangar, they've got an airplane in it and they have a powered parachute. Both are N-numbered, but
Right.
not necessarily all powered parachutes are gonna have an N-number.
right,
So that would be perfectly okay. They're both aviation,
Right.
they're both aircraft and,
yeah, because I don't know that we have anywhere in here a limitation on
right, yeah.
how many aircraft are stored in the hangar. So do you think that, so if we just leave it, tenant shall provide to the city at time of effective date of this agreement and subsequent renewals, a copy of a current aircraft airworthy annual inspection as the based unit, and add that language in there? And then, or keep the other language, or for non-N-numbered aircraft, an aircraft annual condition report. But that way it says as the based unit, that has to be an N-numbered aircraft. Does that? Okay.
Yeah, I think that will,
Okay. And of course, I'll work with Attorney Weber to make sure that the wording meets his criteria. How's that? But that way it shows that you could store something that wasn't N-numbered, but it can't be the based unit. And elsewhere, the lease states that it has to be a based unit, stored in there. So
okay.
does that make sense, or did I just contradict myself on that? Okay. So I had that one. It's like I said, just going from memory. Okay, Section 6, number 7. This one has to do with the city providing fuel. So it states, per FAA Advisory Circular 150/5190-6, tenants may assert their right to obtain their own fuel and transport it to the airport to service their own aircraft. Such fueling shall only be done by the tenant or with their own employees and equipment, and shall be done in conformance with reasonable airport rules, regulations, and standards. The airport manager agrees to make available at the airport and at a reasonable rate an amount of fuel at a fuel grade sufficient to operate aircraft used by tenant. And at this point, since we're only set up to provide the one grade, do we want to modify that or just?
Right, because there are aircraft that do run on jet fuel
Right.
that will fit in those hangars, and we can't provide jet fuel right now.
Right.
We're not there yet.
So any thoughts on how we modify that to make it?
Do we need the clause in there that says the airport manager will provide the appropriate
Just strike
fuel
that
grade?
last sentence?
I think we could delete that.
And that way there's no reference to us providing anything other. That work? Okay,
Yes.
okay. Where was the other one? Okay, I think the next.
6.5, I had mentioned the instructional services. That's not necessarily a modification, but
Right,
that's something that we would have immediate need to come up with some kind of.
gotcha. And we don't have a draft of that agreement
Right,
yet,
yeah.
but we could start working on that, yeah.
Okay. 6.14.
I also had 6.8.
Okay.
This is talking about snow and ice removal. I don't know if
Yes.
this is the one that you had notated.
Yeah, Mr. Weber and I had discussed this as well.
Okay, just a second. Let me get a note here. Okay, so number 8, tenants shall maintain the T-hangar in a clean manner and shall keep it free of debris, trash, or other foreign materials. Tenants shall not place any debris, trash, or other foreign materials on airport grounds. Tenants shall not fuel any aircraft inside the T-hangar or store gasoline, explosives, or flammables in the T-hangar. Tenants shall be responsible for removing any debris, including snow and ice from in front of leased T-hangar to hangar area taxiway. Now, is this the one you were referring to? I thought the one.
I think it was outside of section 6. I'm gonna-
Okay, it may have been, but
take a look
something
at
that referred to the city providing snow and ice removal?
Yeah, I believe it was in section 7 or 8. Let's see.
Okay. Okay, obligations by the city, section 7. Yep, number 2.
7-2, that's right.
Provide removal of snow and ice to public taxiways and runways during inclement winter weather, except that the city shall not be responsible for the removal of snow and ice on each T-hangar's immediate driveway adjacent to the taxiway nearest the T-hangar facility.
And I know that the city has got to take care of their city streets first.
Right.
And truth be told, there's not going to be much air traffic on days when
In
we're
those-
having snow and ice anyway. But we
Right.
can't be promising that, hey, Brent's going to get out there and clear that snow first thing
Right.
while cars are piling up on the roads. Anyway.
Right. So to modify that, provide removal of snow and ice to public taxiways and runways during inclement weather.
When able or whatever, Mr.
Time permitting
Yeah.
or whatever.
Do we say time permitting, or do we say after? Is
I
it-
trust that Attorney Weber could come up with the proper language because he knows kind of what we're trying to accomplish. We don't want to,
Gotcha. Yeah, but that's not the
Obligate the
priority
city
behind safe streets. Right. I mean, that's, right. I'm wondering, and I'll talk with him if it isn't something that's maybe after emergency snow routes are cleared or something, do you know what I mean? Something to that
Right.
effect. Okay. Put James with a question mark here. Okay, all right, so we go back to 6. That's all that I had notated that I could remember from memory.
okay. So on 614, I had mentioned that, let's say that I have the hangar leased and my plane's going to be gone for a month due to maintenance. And there's somebody else that needs to use my hangar, but I'm not going to lease them. I'm not going to collect any money from them. I'm just going to let them use my hangar so their plane's not sitting outside in a thunderstorm. I would like to be able to let them borrow my hangar, so to speak, temporarily. If we're able to, they're not going to be based there necessarily. It might be somebody from Willow Springs. It might be somebody from Texas. You don't know who's flying in there and might need temporary storage. But this strictly prohibits any kind of temporary storage, whereas if we had some kind of option to where we're not going to void the lease, breach the lease agreement for doing such a thing. We're not subleasing the hangar, we're just allowing temporary storage.
I guess my, and I think I understand where you're going with this. Part of our concern is if someone moves in and then chooses not to vacate the hangar again, then do you potentially have a situation where you're having to go through the whole eviction process?
I mean, it's,
So, let me explain this. So,
Yeah.
let's say you're renting a house, you have a lease agreement, you let your friend move in. Once your friend establishes a residence in your home, even though it's your home, and you have an agreement, then at that point, they reside there, and it's their home. They can come and go as they please, they can stay as long as they want to, they can have all their friends come, and there's nothing that you can do about it.
does
That's
that
the way the
apply
law-
to
Yes.
property though, not?
Yes. If you'll have a lease agreement with pilots, and then you let someone put their plane in your hangar, and you say for 30 days, but they want to keep it there 60 days. Once they have put that plane in there, you can't regulate how many days they can stay. It's the same thing as letting someone live in your home, then you have to evict them once they're there. You can't put a timeline on it. Then it's, yeah.
Is there any kind of agreement we could have available if that situation did arise?
I don't
I do-
know. I guess I'd be curious, do you know of other airports that do this?
Well, they do, what would you call it? They have community hangars and they offer daily storage rates
Gotcha.
for
folks who
I've
just
flown
fly
into,
in,
yeah, I've
right.
flown into other airports and the storm rolled in and whatever, $25 a night, and you pay them, and there's no agreement. It's just, hey, will you cover my airplane tonight?
Gotcha.
And they do.
Your receipt for that day, that rental, is your agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we, that's why, at this point, I won't let anyone put a plane in a hangar that they don't have a lease for, because then we have to evict them.
What if Tyler's airplane's going to be tied up for 60 days or whatever, that this person that needs to use it, and it's probably not going to be an overnight person, but they could rent it from the city for 30 days, and then 30 days, do you have to evict them or no? That's different, and you can just get them out of there, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that would probably be another
Can
lease
of worms.
agreement. Yeah, that
Okay.
they would have to sign. I would think that would come under subletting.
Yeah.
then.
I would
That
like
be
to
an
look
Attorney
into
Weber
some
question.
sort of agreement that we can come up with, just if I got to keep a copy in my hangar, because there's so many times where somebody lands and there's a hailstorm coming and they're landing for
Right.
cover, and they're about to
There's
get
no
their,
place to-
yeah, their
right.
whatever $250,000 airplane beat up. So I hate for the red tape to prevent the airplane from getting destroyed, in other words, so. And that has happened several times. Storm rolling in, I'm like, go ahead and just
Gotcha.
park in my hangar. I am completely okay with that. I'm okay with that, but I don't want
And
to,
99% of the time, you wouldn't have an issue. But it's that 1% that you let somebody park in your hangar and then they decide they don't want to leave. Then your plane is outside.
okay, so.
I mean, it's just something
Yeah,
that we
you know,
can.
I like the idea, like you said, about the community hangars that are available just for that kind of short duration. Unfortunately, we just don't have that. facility right
Long-term,
now.
yes. Right now,
Right.
no.
Right. And I can certainly look, and like I said, if you know of an airport that does do it, that we can check with them and see how they, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can send a few messages. I can get some answers.
Okay. That would
And
be-
then, is there the possibility with the new hangars, there'll be some of the old hangars that are empty?
No, I don't think so, based on the length of our waiting list.
We've got quite the list.
I mean, it might be, but until we reach out to them and know how many of them are still
Ready
wanting
ready or
space.
whatever, yeah?
Yes. Yeah, but we have more on our waiting list than we will have available hangars, so.
And then section 8, pretty brutal clause there, but Attorney Weber kind of explained to me that, and if you don't mind going ahead and reading the language on section 8 there.
Sure, the whole section?
I
I can't.
wish I could see what,
Okay,
anyway.
yeah. Okay, so section 8, T-hanger inspection. The city administrator or designee shall periodically inspect the city-owned T-hangers to determine if tenant is in compliance with the provisions of this agreement and other applicable ordinances, regulations, or policies. Inspections shall be conducted at least once per year, but may be conducted as often as deemed necessary by the city administrator. The city reserves the right to enter the premises and inspect city-owned T-hangers with or without notice. Upon completion of any inspection, the city will provide the tenant written communication verifying the inspection and any compliance issues identified. Tenant agrees that any non-compliance with the terms and conditions of this agreement shall be considered a material breach of this agreement and may result in the termination of this agreement. If compliance issues were not in violation of any rules, regulations, laws, ordinances, and directives of any legally constituted authority now in force or hereafter promulgated with respect to the use of the airport or the T-hanger, the tenant shall be allowed 30 days to address compliance issues. Following the 30 days, the city administrator shall require a re-inspection to be done on the non-compliant hangar, and if the tenant is still non-compliant with the terms and conditions of this agreement after this re-inspection, tenant agrees that this is a material breach of this agreement and the city may terminate this agreement within the city's sole discretion. The city administrator may elect to allow for additional time for a tenant to come into compliance if the city administrator determines that a hardship exists preventing a tenant from complying within 30 days. Tenants leasing any hangars determined to be non-compliant after a re-inspection shall be provided written notice of such continued non-compliance by first-class mail, return receipt requested. Said notice shall also notify tenant of the city's intention to terminate the lease agreement with the tenant within 10 days, and the tenant shall remove all items in the T-hanger within 10 days.
James has already cleaned that up from the original agreement.
Okay.
So I'm good with that.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions on it? Okay.
With that being said, do I have a motion to recommend this agreement, once it's finalized by Attorney Weber, to be approved by the Board of Aldermen to be our lease agreement for the new, this is just the T hangars, the new
Right.
building with the 6 Ts in it.
I make a motion to approve the lease.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, the motion passes.
I do have one item for other business.
Absolutely, go ahead.
So I just today received an email from Ian Wright with Lochner. And you may remember last year in December, we had a meeting, we had Ian come down and we went over our capital improvement plan. It's a 10-year plan required by FAA. So that's coming up in December that we'll need to kind of review that. So unfortunately, that may mean another meeting. I'm not sure when you guys might want to do that, and I'll check with Ian too to see when he might be available. But just to review that capital improvement plan, make sure that we're on the right track, or see if there are any changes or amendments we need to make. He did send me a list of questions, and I will forward those to all of you to kind of be thinking about, hey, are these things in good condition, kind of a checklist. I know after we approved the capital improvement, sorry, I'll talk into the mic. After we approved the capital improvement plan last year, we did have some discussion about our fueling system, station, whatever you want to call it, and that with the tank being directly on the ground and not elevated, that could cause the bottom of it to rust out faster, and we may need to do some improvements there. So, like I said, I know that was conversation we had after last year's meeting where we approved the capital improvement plan, so I don't know, just something to be thinking about as we start thinking about that capital improvement plan. I do have that plan posted in case anybody's curious just what it is. It is on our website on the airport page. There's a link to it, so you can kind of see what the projects are moving forward, at least per our approved capital improvement plan. Okay? So just wanted to put that in your ears.
Yep, thank you. And while you're going ahead and talking about some stuff, can you go ahead and explain the bill? I mean, I'm familiar with it, but the bill 3627 that was discussed earlier in the meeting
Oh,
today.
absolutely. So as part of the funding package for the new T hangars that just completed construction, you know, because this project got extended a little longer than was originally planned, of course, the cost kept rising, as all construction costs are doing with everything. So Ian had identified, you know, we only had so much in the, are they NPS, NDS? The annual grants.
PE.
Yeah. Anyway, the annual grants that we get, that we accrue to build up for these bigger projects. And so there wasn't enough to cover those anticipated construction costs. So Ian had identified some additional grant funding in the, let me see if I can get this right, bilateral infrastructure bill.
Bipartisan.
Bipartisan, thank
Infrastructure
you.
law,
Infrastructure bill that Congress had passed. And so that made up kind of the remaining amount between actual construction costs and grant funding. So it was anticipated, we did include it in this year's budget, that revenue, but it just took a while for the actual paperwork to come through for that grant. So on tonight's earlier Alderman Board meeting, that was one of the 2 items that the board approved, was approval of that grant contract. So.
And that money, I believe is 111,000 or so, that goes into the airport fund, or does that go
Yes.
into the, okay,
No, it goes into the airport fund.
okay,
And it's this, it was the same kind of match as the others are.
90%,
Yeah, so.
okay.
And again, that's a one-time. It's not going to be like the other grant that we get every year, get an allotment. That's a one-time thing, so. But very grateful it was there to help cover those extra costs.
Absolutely. Okay. The only other things I had were in regards to, I attempted to reach out to Mary Lou Van Winkle to see if she had any status updates
Gotcha.
on, and I wasn't able to get a hold of her today. I do know that the hangar, Jim, do you know your hangar number?
I think I'm number 3.
I'm 5. I don't know which way it goes, but anyway, the one next to Jim is vacant, and it's been vacant.
Right.
And so, with,
And yeah, we don't have an answer as to whether that's been wrapped up or
right.
not.
But as far as I know, she hasn't been paying rent on that empty hangar, and it
Okay.
should probably be leased
Open up.
out, yeah.
Gotcha. So one of the things that we do want to do, and this hangar will fall in with the others, so when, you know, we figure out who's taking new hangars and moving out, vacating some of the current hangars, we want to go through and have both our building inspector and our maintenance man go through those old hangars, because we don't really know exactly what condition they're in, and see what kind of improvements need to be made before we lease those out again. So again, not knowing right off the bat just what work might need to be done. I don't know exactly how long that will be for those old ones are opened up to the next round. Does that,
I just want to make sure because, and I know that it's so much easier to work on a building like that when it's vacant, obviously.
yes, yes.
But we've got to make sure we get above our 10 airplanes
Absolutely, absolutely.
ASAP.
Yeah.
Because if that plane's gone, we're down to 9,
Right, Yeah.
and there goes the rest of our funding.
right. Yeah, we don't
So-
want that to happen.
The other thing we do have, Attorney Weber said we're very close on the Schwartz hangar being relinquished to the city.
Gotcha.
So
Hopefully.
that's good news. And he said it's pretty much cut and dry as it is, but they just want to prevent any
Right. Cross the Ts and dot the Is.
litigation
Yeah.
in the future, so.
Yes,
But he did, everybody's very cooperative, so that will be,
yeah, it'll be good to see that move forward.
and that way we can fix up the, you know, it needs some tin on the side of the hangar and
Right.
get it to where it's presentable again.
Yeah,
As far as the credit card reader, since our last meeting, it had been tampered with, and we had quite the wait getting Show Me Petroleum here. They came, they installed it, and it said insert card, and they left, and it was denying everybody's credit card. So that was about 6 hours worth of phone conversations to get that properly installed.
okay. Can you make sure you let us know, Brent, Tammy, somebody, myself, whomever, let us know when that does go down?
Sure.
Because we find ourselves regularly, we don't know until after the fact. And so if you'll just try to make sure and let us know.
Yep. And I definitely try to stay in touch with Brent on it
Okay.
because he has to issue the notice to airmen to
Right.
let everybody else know that the
Gotcha, okay,
card.
okay.
And we hadn't brought it back online in that system yet, so I
Okay.
believe that NOTAM's gone now, right? I think we took that down.
Okay.
And you've been issuing NOTAMs when you guys are out there sealing pavement, so it'll be the same deal with the paint. The deer out there on the airport, you know, I'm not opposed to having a managed deer hunt. We're right here in deer season.
Gotcha.
That's something that just popped in my mind because I've had so many deer that just dart out in front of me.
You know, and I was thinking of that last year for other reasons. I'm not sure if we can pull it together for deer season this
Yeah,
year.
no.
We need to start talking about it in advance so that we can, because we can certainly do that where the city could issue permits for folks to, on specific city property. Another area where we have a regular problem, we have 2 areas where we regularly have deer crossing the highways, headed north out of town, right around the bridge. We have them up there, but we also have them headed east out of town near the industrial park. So that's another piece of property that we could potentially, depending on how we do it, I mean, we'd have to be careful, but,
And I spoke with the conservation agent with the issue of safety and nuisance. It's something he and I could just go out there and take
Gotcha.
care of too. It doesn't have to be a public managed
Right.
hunt. It can be something we just go out there and take care of it.
yeah, it can be
But-
handled several different ways, yeah.
You know, they're not always out there, but when they're out there, there's 12 of them, so.
Right,
The cameras are gonna be a huge asset, especially on that card reader if we've got somebody trying to tamper with it already. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully Rommel can get done with his other projects soon and help us out. Does anybody else have any other issues they'd like to bring up in other business?
I just have some information
Sure.
that I wanted to share. So on the waiting list, I have 10 people on this waiting list. I have started to reach out to them, just letting them know that, the T hangars are completed, and then we'll start that process as soon as we get this lease approved by the board. But what I am doing is I have made a wait list form. That way they fill it out, they date it, and I don't have just this. So, of the 3 people that I've been able to call, only 1 has returned a form to me.
Okay.
So my question is, how long do I wait for them to
Respond.
respond? One I spoke to said he didn't have an airplane, but wanted to stay on the list. That way he could get one. He hasn't filled the form out and returned that to me. I left a message for one other pilot, and I haven't received a phone call back. So what do you think is a acceptable time for me to wait for them to respond and fill the form out so that they can stay on the waiting list?
I would think 2 weeks is a pretty standard
Okay.
waiting term. Is that
I mean, if they're that interested, they should get back with you in 2 weeks.
within 2 weeks? Yeah, especially with the contact information they provided you initially.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and going this route, that way we have an actual paper trail on file, and that way it kind of eliminates some of the past issues with who's on the waiting list and where are they at, and that way it's dated. They
Give them a
sign it.
copy of it, signed by the
We could do
city,
that.
signed by you.
So, yeah.
Okay. Anything else you guys can think of? It's getting cold. We need to get our fuel tank power washed at some point. Brent, the hose disappeared out there. I don't know. We had a hose that we washed down airplanes. I don't know where it went. Yeah. I guess we could put a hose reel on the side of the retaining wall. I don't think that'd be a regulatory issue. Something. But
I thought we were discussing replacement of the same person's cleaning and painting.
I was just talking power washing it, just shine it up for right now. I'm not talking, yeah, we are. And when we had the discussion with Ian, but we were just, our last meeting, we had mentioned just pressure washing it to make it look a little more presentable. It's got a lot of that mold and algae on it. So
Wonder how much paint will come off with that.
I wasn't planning on sandblasting it. Yeah, it's been a busy year. Anything else you guys can think of? Anything from you guys?
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything either. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Thank you for supporting and everything you guys do to keep us going out there. Much appreciated. Very, I've been seeing all the work you guys do out there. It's great. You're out there like 2-3 times a week or more. So, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you very much.